Rhythm and Soul Radio. I am Marco Nobles, and right now it is all about South by Southwest. We are broadcasting from South by Southwest all week, South by Southwest 2023. And right now, my South by Southwest is made completely because there is a band that have been pioneers, not just in a genre of music, but in music overall. We talk on Rhythm and Soul Radio about foundation music. We don't talk about classic music. We say foundation music. And when you talk about, you know, punk, rock, ska, you know, building legacies and bridges for other black artists, the group Fishbone is a legacy band, and Norwood Fisher of Fishbone is with me in the virtual studio. Sir, it is such a pleasure to talk to you.
Hey, thanks for having me. And, it's always a pleasure to come in the rhythm and soul space. Like, you know what I mean? Because, yes, we've done a lot in punk rock, ska, doors kicked open for heavy metal. But
Yes.
it's actually few and far between when we get to speak to our own people.
Yeah, well, and I told you before we started, it's very special because I remember watching, growing up in New York, watching the various video channels. Back then, there were numerous video channels. It was this was before MTV, where we can see something that was left of center, that some of us were
Yes,
looking for. At one time, it was hip hop was left of center, but then to see, black artists doing rock music, punk music with a little bit of ska and funk, and hearing, back then, Party at Ground Zero or Ugly, it was just amazing to see, these guys with the energy. That is not limited to others, that we do it too because it came from us in the first place.
exactly. So, and let's say MTV was around, but they wouldn't play Michael Jackson. They wouldn't play Rick James.
Right.
They just wouldn't playing, black artists, period, for a minute, and one of the few people that Rick James took him to task and David Bowie took him to task, right? Like few people opened up and and actually pushed for it. But beyond that, yeah, it's like we have conversations all the time about like the first real punk rocker was Little Richard, you know,
Mm.
like
Talk about it, the history. There you
you know
go.
what I mean, like that cat. He was he being a bisexual, just out and out caterwauling at the top of his lungs, you know, a pioneer, you know. I
Right.
had the good pleasure of actually having conversations with Charles Connor, his first
Mm.
drummer,
Okay.
and and I met Little Richard along the way plenty of times. I would
Mm.
always stop him and thank him, you know,
Mm.
just be like, "Hey, thank you," because like I got a job.
Yeah, he
'Cause,
broke down doors for a lot of folks
yeah,
in many genres.
yeah, but Charles Connor really explained to me what they had to go through and the obstacles that they had to endure so that a cat like me could do what I do. And I have my own obstacles, right? Like, and it's the record labels claimed confusion, and I could really understand why, but it's it doesn't make it right. It's just like, oh, of course you were confused because you didn't have to work hard, you didn't have to think.
Mm.
We made people have to think, and it was out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
But for me, it was just normal, right? Like we did what came naturally because Funkadelic,
Mm.
because Sly and the Family Stone,
Right, right,
because Mother's Finest,
right, right,
right?
right.
And and really, when we connected to what Bad Brains was, because we were on our path,
Yeah.
then and then Angelo bought Bad Brains, and we was like, oh, this could possibly be for us. And then finding ska and the two tone movement, anti-racism, felt extremely inclusive. But we knew it from the English standpoint, and to discover that ska itself had Jamaican roots,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
it's a black form of music.
Yeah, absolutely. You
Like,
mentioned, mhm, go ahead.
so no, so we looked at everything like, no, this is for us,
Yeah,
by us and for us.
absolutely. You mentioned talking about what little Richard had to endure and what you all had to endure. I want to talk about the enduring legacy, and I'm going to reach over here because we're in our virtual studio. And so, you know, 40 years ago, there was this, which is
Yeah,
ugly and party at ground zero and lying ass bitch and, and all that. So 40 years, and you've been through it all. Fishbone has had, you know, different members. When you perform at South by Southwest this week, you will have most of the original members back with the band. Talk about enduring through these 40 years, 40 plus years, because you all started, a good 4 or 5 years before this was released.
yeah.
So talk about this 45-year journey of being and
Okay,
still being able to do it.
I'm gonna try and do this real quick, right? We were 14. I was 14, 1979, born in 1965. The
Mm,
first time all the original members of the band got together, 1979, right? And we practiced from 1979 until 1983. We did three talent shows, and then went and found our way into playing a nightclub. Our first professional show was May 21st, 1983, at
mm,
a venue called Madame Wong's Chinatown. This is a punk rock mecca, and the owner, Esther Wong, paid me $25 at the end of the night. Our first
wow.
professional
First
event.
professional gig to get paid for. There you go. There you go.
So from there till now, it seems like it took forever, but in 1985 we released the 6 song EP that you just showed everyone.
Hmm.
And yeah, there was some wild times in there, where, like it, where the business, the people that you encounter, like, is so much beauty and so much grace bestowed upon us. And there was some ugly shit too. And but really, most of all, like, we were able to forge forward, pioneering. We didn't know we was pioneering. We were just doing what came naturally. In hindsight, I understand what people talk about,
Yeah.
but like, really, we were just in it. And for us, like I said before, it was what did Sly and the Family Stone have to walk through? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
what did Parliament Funkadelic in them first few albums
Yeah.
into before they had hits?
Right.
Like, what did they have to walk through, right? Like, and they was as crazy as us. It's just a different scenario, right? Like,
Right.
so we just felt like we were carrying on, emulating our ancestors,
Mm, mm.
because Little Richard, Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, you know what I mean? Like,
Wow. Yeah. Right. It all comes down the line. It's Rhythm and Soul Radio. I am Marco Nobles. We are talking with Norwood Fisher, member of the legendary band Fishbone. And I have to apologize to those who are listening on radio because we're also on YouTube. So I showed the first EP released from Fishbone. So those of you, who are listening and not watching, then you're not sure what I'm referring to. And so I'm apologizing in advance because I got another one to show because that EP led to, the first album that featured Freddie's Dead, and the second album, full album, I believe, was In Your Face, if I'm not
In your
mistaken.
face, absolutely, yes.
And this was the second full album, which really kind of showed a lot of you all because in terms of the facial expressions, in terms of the just the camera angles, it just kind of, as much as you could in a picture, kind of show a certain energy of this band, and the energy of the band everybody talks about is still on display when they see you now, some
Yeah.
almost 40 years later, on stage. And again, Fishbone will be performing at South by Southwest, at Mohawk Outdoors. I believe it's Thursday night, Friday night. I know it's an after midnight
It's
show.
I think it's Friday.
It's
I
Friday.
think it's
Okay.
Friday turning into Saturday.
Friday turning into Saturday. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So, talk about. I mean, obviously, we all get a little older. Father Time is undefeated, but you guys are still able to be as energetic and crazy on stage as ever. What is the secret for you guys?
Well, for me, I'm speaking for myself. Like I work at it. Like no, it's like this. Like I lived, rocking and rolling, right? Like
Hmm.
you know, I smoked as much weed as I could get in my lungs. I drank as much liquor as I could hold in my gullet. And, psychedelics was one of my main things. And then I reached a point to where I I could even while I was in the midst of most of it, I could see like, wait a minute, don't like everything is free. People like to share. You know what I mean? And I
Hmm.
think it's just people being generous. I give them that, right? And so like I walk into a bar and bartenders like recognize you and want to give you free drinks and whatnot. I knew. I'm like, wait a minute, man, this can't like too easy. And so
Right.
anyway, by 2006, I just stopped doing everything. I'm a runner, right?
Mm.
I run. I got them surfboards back there. I surf. I snowboard. And I don't do anything anymore. And
Mm.
I'm just one of them people that was fortunate enough to do something so stupid that I could see that I needed to put on the brakes, and I did, right?
Right.
So I run, work out, and I learned a different way, eating as healthy as I could imagine. I'm a pescatarian,
Mm.
and so I feel lighter on my feet, you
Okay.
know, and I try to stay physically in a decent place, and most of the band thinks in their own way. Not everybody lives like me, but
Right.
really, the fact is from day one we was bringing that energy with nobody watching,
Right. Right. So it was
right?
always just a party, y'all.
It was because we grew up with ain't nothing but a party,
Right.
right? So it was like, that was Graham Central Station first album, ain't nothing but a
Yeah.
party,
Yeah.
right? And then George Clinton, ain't nothing but a party. So ain't nothing but a party. It looked like that's what all it was about, and so we lived it. And so that from from when we were rehearsing and no one was watching, it was just
The party continues on, and the party has continued on. I mean, there's been so many. I'm sure there's been. You may look at it as highs and lows, but there's just so many great memories that people have when you think about Fishbone. You know, a lot of that came to a head when we got to see the documentary Everyday Sunshine about
Yeah,
the band that really kind of helped crystallize for folks what Fishbone was really about, and and the mark that you guys were leaving. And now that we're here, and now just to think it's like 10 years, 12 years, something like that, since the documentary, and you guys are still leaving that mark, leaving that legacy. You know, do you think about still now like what that legacy is of Fishbone as you encounter like other artists who've been inspired by you all?
absolutely. Because like I'm in a space where that 2020 hindsight theory,
Hmm.
like, is apparent. Like, oh man, like, yeah, I could really see it, and I'm not so much worried about the missteps of the past. Like, I could see them clearly, and they help me guide my future, so I don't make the same stumbles and falls. But really, it's like, kind of grace. How gracefully can I create my future? You know, like, is
Mm.
it, you know, and deliver on the promise of what it means to be a fishbone. And part of that is like we're reestablishing ourselves on a certain level, but it's never without the aspirational idea of creating something that maybe has never been done before, right? I
Hmm.
really believe that's the job of the 16-year-old to 25-year-old, but we never stop. We
Right.
always want to see, like, is it possible to turn over a rock and find something new?
Right. Well, speaking of finding something new, you all have a new single that's being released, and you're about to go on tour as well. This show at South by Southwest is the kickoff of a tour for this year. Can you talk about the single and then the tour?
Yeah, it's a song called "All We Have Is Now," which is basically a call to, is it possible to be present, right? Like, and like I wrote it. It's and honestly, I'm jotting down notes to myself mostly.
Mm,
Not not it's like to remind myself, like, stay in the present, because I my wheels can spin all kinds of ways. It's like where I'm way in the future sometimes, and like, oh, wait a minute, like, what if, like,
right.
I gotta reel myself in. Like, I'm all up in my tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that if I don't watch out,
Right. Right.
and ultimately it's a note to self, and if people get something out of it, I hope people interpret it in all kinds of ways and apply it to their own lives in whatever manner they feel. But it's ultimately, and I'm into philosophy, like, you
Mm,
know what I mean. Like, I'm into that kind of thing. So I'm like, I'm into maybe all of that exists is now,
mm.
and maybe we could play with the rest of it, but you know like it is a anyway the gift
Yes.
of
Yes. Yeah. Smith Soul Radio. We're talking with Norwood Fisher of Fishbone. The new single is "All We Have Is Now." They're performing at South by Southwest. We've been covering South by Southwest 2023. Fishbone is performing on Friday night, Saturday morning, 12:40, 12:40, 12:30, something like that, at Mohawk Outdoors. Now, you mentioned, it's the job of the 16 to 25-year-olds to create something new. But when you take the stage, you guys will be on the stage with a lot of these, 16 to 25-year-olds. But you guys have been doing it, do you have the urge to say let's go on and show them how it's done? Let's let them know that
Yeah.
there's some of that competition. You still got to blaze up the stage,
No, no,
when you get
we
there.
we we come to bring it, and it's beyond competition because it's like because we are in the elder stage of rock and roll, right? Like there, you like me, ain't no Grecian formula coming my way. You know what I mean? I'm proud of my grade.
That's right. That's right.
You know what I mean? So no, man, it's like no, Paw Paw came to show you what time it is. You can't compete with Paw Paw. You
That's what
know?
I'm talking about. Um, obviously the show is this week here at South by Southwest. You guys are on tour. You're going to be going around to a number of cities throughout the spring and summer, right?
Yeah, wait, we got some amazing run-ins coming up, bro. It's we'll be touring with Les Claypool and the Flying Frog Brigade, which
Okay.
will be amazing. Like he'll have an amazing lineup with him. So I'm really looking forward to that. We're Kindred Souls. He's one of the most amazing bassists that ever was. Got his own style, and we should be doing plenty of jamming together. Uh,
Nice.
but then later in the summer, right now, I just found out not long ago we're slated to do at least 16 shows with George Clinton.
Oh
You
man.
know what I mean?
Oh, I hope we're based in New York. I hope one of those shows is in New York. I
I think we coming to New York, bro.
Oh man, I
Yeah,
gotta be there. I
yeah,
gotta be there. That
yes.
will be amazing. Let everybody know if you can remember any website information, social media that where people can keep up to date on Fishbone and find out the dates on the tour and all that stuff.
Well, look, Fishbone Soldier on Facebook, Fishbone Soldier on Instagram and Twitter, I believe. Those are the hubs. Fishbone.net needs a little work and will be coming soon with a new website, I believe.
Okay,
So keep to them social medias and they'll keep you updated for sure. And
absolutely.
and go to YouTube and type in all we have is now and you will get the new video that seems to be like getting a pretty good amount of views on a regular basis. I'm really happy with just like I'm like a little kid at Christmas every day. Like how many people saw it? How many? You know what I mean? So it's an interesting time, and I'm like, yeah, Spotify, wherever you listen to music, look for All We Have Is Now, and yeah, and if you never seen it before, you got to check it out for sure.
Absolutely. And of course, you'll be able to hear All We Have Is Now right here on Rhythm and Soul Radio because we'll be playing it regularly. And we're definitely going to be looking forward to seeing you Friday night. I'm gonna try to get up close and make sure I shake your hand and give you a hug so we can
Yeah,
catch up in person.
yeah, and then let's give a big up to my man James Spooner, who created the term Afropunk that is now gone beyond.
Yes.
But you know what I mean? Like so that we, for those who who that's how you entered into that possibly abstract realm of black punk rock and alternative realm. Like it's an Afro punk. Yeah, we're the guys that were Afro punk before there was a term Afro punk,
That's right.
right?
That's
So
right.
yeah, catch the vibes.
Absolutely. It's Rhythm and Soul Radio. We've been talking with Norwood Fisher of Fishbone, the new single, All We Have Is Now. We're going to get into it while here at South by Southwest. We're going to get into seeing them live Friday night. Those of you who are in Austin and you're able to come through Mohawk Outdoors, come check it out. Friday night, Saturday morning, they're doing an after midnight set It's part of a long South by Southwest outdoor set. I think it's like South by Southwest Loud or something like that. Uh, so definitely check it out, but definitely support the legend that is Fishbone, and they're still making history. Mr. Fisher, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, bro.
All right, it's Rhythm and Soul Radio. Fishbone, all we have is now.